All right. Aside from Miami, what's the toughest remaining game on Syracuse football's schedule?
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on this week's Poll Friday, I asked you guys the question, what is the toughest remaining game on Syracuse's schedule, excluding Miami? Because I think we can all agree that Miami is the toughest game on Syracuse's schedule. They're the highest ranked team remaining on the slate. They clearly have the most talent of all the teams remaining. So that's the toughest game. Aside from Miami, which one is going to be the toughest for Syracuse? And I gave you guys 4 choices. All happen to be road games. At UNLV on October 4th, at NC State on October 12th, at Boston College on November 9th. And Boston College, by the way, is ranked 24th in the country. Who knew? And at Cal on November 16th, who, by the way, just went into Auburn's building and won. So that's pretty good. Shout out to the ACC for knocking off an SEC school on the road. But anyways, there were 406 total votes on this week's Poll Friday, and the winner is NC State at about 42%. In second place was Boston College. Third was UNLV. And in last place is Cal. So of the 4 games, people think that NC State will be the toughest one and Cal will be the easiest one for Syracuse to handle. This question is tough. And I ask the tough questions on Poll Friday sometimes. They're not always going to be easy layups. And this was a close vote, actually. I am going to say NC State as well. NC State was ranked going into the season. They had a lot of high hopes after a good year last year. They struggled in week 1 against an FCS team, so that wasn't encouraging. And then week 2, they got absolutely manhandled by Tennessee at home. But Tennessee is a really good team. So as discouraging as it was to watch NC State, if you're an NC State fan, you do have to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt that it is coming against one of the better teams in the entire country. Should it have been 51-10, whatever it was? Probably not. But Tennessee is a really good football team out there. And their roster is actually pretty good. It is good. There's a reason why this team was ranked heading into the season. But their quarterback in Grayson McCall, who is a Sun Belt transfer, and it was a 4-star transfer, by the way, just behind Kyle McCord in the rankings, he hasn't been living up to the hype for NC State. So really, this answer is contingent on whether or not Grayson McCall can turn it around, because he has not played well through 2 games. Now, if he does turn it around, NC State's going to be really difficult to beat on the road. But judging by his play through 2 games, even then, it's like, that's what makes this question so tough. I mean, are they still the toughest game, even if he's not clicking at 100%? I'm not saying he's hurt. I'm just saying if he's not firing on all cylinders, does it still make NC State the toughest remaining game aside from Miami? I'm not so sure. So coming up, let's talk about some of the other options that I gave out. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Fuel up with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, You'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great-tasting meals. Make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine. And so what are you waiting for? With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 and use code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. So let's go over the other options that I gave out on this week's Poll Friday, which was the toughest remaining game on Syracuse's schedule aside from Miami. So we're not including the Miami game because I think most of us can agree that's the toughest one remaining, even though it is a home game. They are the most talented team on paper and yada, yada, yada. You get the idea, right? So the choices were at UNLV, at NC State, at Boston College, and at Cal. And I just went over why by a smidge I'll take NC State as the toughest one. But let's talk about Boston College for a second, which, again, they're ranked 24th in the country right now, which is pretty odd to see. Unlike Georgia Tech, Boston College smacked Florida State. And it wasn't in a neutral site. It wasn't in Europe. It was in Florida State's building. Now, I know that Florida State is just not a good team this year. I get that. But they beat Florida State in a much uglier fashion than Georgia Tech did, for what it's worth. All right? They handled their business last week against Duquesne. They blew them out as they were expected to do. And I am a believer in Bill O'Brien. Now, call me insane all you want. Bill O'Brien is actually a good coach. He's a good coach. You know what got him in trouble in Houston? When he was with the Houston Texans. It was when he became a GM. Okay, so you don't want him being the general manager of your football team. That's what got him in trouble. But as far as coaching, he's got a good track record of good, successful teams. And so I believe in Bill O'Brien as a head coach, and he can do a really good job in Boston College. And the fact that they're top 25 through 2 weeks speaks volumes to the job he's already done. What I want to see, though, with Boston College is how they handle Missouri tomorrow. Okay, that's going to be the test. Missouri is a top 10 team in the country. You're going on the road. If Boston College keeps that game close, then I think we can all agree that Boston College will probably be the toughest game for Syracuse. If they get absolutely mollywopped by Missouri, if they get absolutely destroyed, then it's almost like they're in the same boat as NC State, where you're like, yeah, they might be a tough team, but did you just see them against that competition? Like, it was ugly, right? So Boston College, I want to wait and see before anointing them as the toughest game aside from Miami. With the others, UNLV is a tough group of 5 matchup. I kind of want to see how they do against Kansas, which is actually coming up in about an hour. So stay tuned for that. If they handle their business against against Kansas, then maybe you can consider that one the toughest one, but I'm not a believer in them just yet, even though didn't they put up 72 points against Utah Tech last week? So pretty impressive, but still, it's Utah Tech. And I was worried about Cal in terms of travel, but when I look at Cal's schedule, they're going to be in Wake Forest the week before they play us. So they're also going back to California as well. So both teams are traveling in that stretch. Now, I know that Cal would be the home team, and Cal also just beat Auburn on the road. But again, I just want to see more. So I'm still going to default to NC State as the toughest game aside from Miami. That's still my default answer, even though it's like, it's a fun experiment because I think it goes to show you that for the first time in a long time, there really isn't a team on Syracuse's schedule aside from Miami where you can be like, yeah, that team just has more talent, right? Like when Syracuse would play Clemson and sometimes keep it close or even win like in 2017, you knew Clemson had more talent. They did. Last year when they played Florida State, I mean, come on. You knew Florida State had more talent. And it was the same thing when they played North Carolina on the road. They had Drake May and Omarion Hampton. Like, they had more talent than us. But for the first time in a long time, I mean, there's no Clemson. There's no Louisville. Name me a team on Syracuse's schedule that you can definitively say has more talent aside from Miami. I will concede Miami and every other team. It's either close in talent or Syracuse might have slightly more. Now, having said that, it's on Syracuse to be able to take advantage and to essentially prove what I am saying to be correct. That you do have more talent than this team, or you have equal talent to this team. Go out and beat that team, even if it's in their building. That's the bottom line. You still got to play the games, and you still have to win. But at least we can go into most of them with the idea that, hey, Syracuse has a solid chance of winning. With Miami, we'll see how the year plays out, but right now I would say it would be more of a puncher's chance. Most of the other games are either a toss-up or Syracuse is going to be favored. That's the bottom line. So, thank you guys all so much for watching and listening to this week's Poll Friday. A reminder, the Poll Friday question goes out every Monday afternoon, usually right around noon. It goes on Twitter at @LO_Syracuse. And in the YouTube community section of the Locked On Syracuse channel on YouTube. So be sure to vote when I release the question, which again is usually around noon every single Monday. And of course, Poll Fridays is every single week, Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this video, click that like button. And if you really liked it, subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications so you know right away when I'm dropping the next podcast. And everyone, take care.